Hello everybody, I'm Giuseppe Basili, also known as the FibStalker. Thanks for joining in this daily and intraday review. Today is May the 3rd, 2018, and this video is part of the FibStalker Analysis and Trading Service. As usual, if you have not yet read and accepted the usual disclaimer here, please pause the video now and you can read it now. All right. Thanks for that, and let's dive into the market. First of all, I want to review the dollar index, what's happening with that after yesterday Fed decision. So they left the interest rate at 2%, but clearly the statements are kind of hawkish, so it's possible to see this market continuing higher. Okay, now as usual we just follow the sequence of measured moves. So this market started respecting this 50% here mid of April, and then eventually was the base for this move higher. Okay, so the market went into the first and second target, and now we have the two highs here, and if this market corrects here, there is the possibility for this market to come into the 9160 area and then continue higher if we get that kind of deep retrace. So we're gonna see whether that's the case or not. If that happens, the first and second target, as you can see, are higher, and the second target lines up with the previous highs, where we would see a little bit of profit taking likely. So very strong move, strong pace as well. It's much more probable that there is a correction, a continuation higher, than there is a complete reversal in this market. Okay, so that's what we're seeing. So let's see if the US dollar Singapore dollar confirms this view. I use this market as a proxy for the dollar, and an important things that we need to observe here is that the initial sequence of a measured move has failed. Okay, we had three measured moves in this sequence, and that was the first one, highs to highs, held, broke price into the first target, next measured move, broke price into first and second target, and the next measured move is going to be from the it was from the highs to highs, and this has failed. Okay, so because this has failed, I'm gonna use the same level here that we saw, the corresponding level that we saw in the dollar index, and that's the 132.82. okay, so this is very close in the US dollar Singapore dollar. It's a little bit farther in the dollar index, the corresponding level, but this is what we could get here. Now this market has also traded a 50% short on the opposing 50% short. I don't give a lot of importance to this level because the sequence has failed on top of a 50% level, but nevertheless this market is actually experiencing here some profit taking that could come more from the second target that was hit before rather than the presence of the 50% short. Okay, so before we continue with the majors, let me review the SP 500 as well. The SP 500 continues lower here, and it's playing its sideways move here. I mentioned a number of times that bears are in control, and the reason for that is the 50% short of the FibStalker sideways pattern has traded, and the long has not held once again. And again, 2 days ago on Tuesday here, we saw again this level failing. Okay, we will leave this level there because they represent the channel of the sideways pattern. But at the moment, what we're seeing is the 50% seems to be firming, short seems to be firmly in control here, which means that this market could quickly move into 25.75. All right, the bottom of the range, and then we will assess from there. Okay, so I'll then go through the majors here, and then we'll review some other markets that might be of interest. So the Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar here has traded the 50% as anticipated. The larger time frame, on the larger time frame, the 75.77 is the failure level. If the market gets above that level, then we could actually see, we will need to test the next measure move in this daily, which is the highs to lows. Okay, so at the moment when we look at the sequence here, you remember that I've indicated um, a, um, a failure level that was actually pierced. So the FibStalking timing here has confirmed, and that was pierced. Yesterday. So the the longs here are the daily longs are certainly involved here. We'll need to see whether the shorts will come in. Euro dollar, the strong move lower here seems to be ended for now. We really don't know in reality, but this market actually could take a rest before a continuation lower. Okay, so there are two levels we want to watch here, and the first one is, when we consider this busted setup here, it actually was capable of pushing price lower. So although busted, we're gonna use this high, swing high to lows for a deep retrace, which will bring price at previous lows here, previous resistance. But this is a very extended price. Okay, so I'm gonna use this weekly level here, lows to lows, to capture some shallower retraces here. Okay, so that's the way I'm gonna model this market. But basically, dollar index is driving at the moment. So as soon as the market reverses, then we will get our entry for the euro dollar as well. The pound here much more weaker in here, and I was answering one of my students here, and let me remove all this, but I'm gonna use this to actually show that the when we model this market, using an extension, if we trace the aggressive move, that gives us the failure, and that's what we got, right? So we got now these 3 weeks of strong selling. So one way to tackle the next measure move is to use this level here, and that will give us the 137.80 if we get a very strong reaction here. There is not a lot of structure on the smaller time frame, so it does not really make a lot of sense to go and look at the smaller time frame in this market. So we need to wait for the retrace. A shallower retrace could come from the low here in this extension and in this extended price, and that could be another level. So the two levels to watch are 137.40, 137.80. Okay, these are the two levels for pound. US dollar, Canadian dollar, of course, has seen a little bit of strength, or in any case it has offset the weakness that this market was experiencing around this 50% short, and this market is also very close to the weekly 50% shorts, the larger short here, and possibly nothing is going to happen here until that level is retested. But as you can see here, this market, after the strong move higher driven by the news in the Canadian dollar, then basically that weakness in the news of the Canadian dollar was then offset by the the strength was offset by the strength of the US dollar, and that's why we show this lateral move here. So to me, this is not a very interesting market at the moment. You know, if this market starts moving lower again, we might capture a sequence of measured moves going back into 25, 26, 126 level, but that's not the case yet. US dollar Swiss franc, very strong market, and it has continued its move higher and keeps continuing higher here. Sorry, very weak, of course, the Swiss franc in here continues its weakness, and in this move higher there is very little structure here, so the extension is going to come into play. Is going to be if there is a retrace in this market, it's going to be a jumping extension. Okay, so I'm going to use the 98.80 level here, which we're going to trace here on the daily as well, and this is the level we are going to monitor here and look for. If we get a retrace, it's going to be the 98.80. Right. US Japanese yen, on the other hand, is correcting a little bit more decisively here. Still, there are levels below. This market has traded a 50% short, and this market, you know, it was already in a move lower. It doesn't mean that it's going to continue lower from here. The setup is there, although this market is not as technical as it usually is, but this busted setup brought price into the first target. The next measure move is trading here, and the confirmation will only come below 108.15 basically, because there are these two levels here looming, and price could actually test 108.90 or 108.50 and basically continue higher. European dollar, US dollar, it's correcting a little bit. I don't think that this market has completed its move yet. Of course, this profit taking after many weeks here of many days of strong selling, 2.5 weeks here, and so this we need to see where this market is going to correct to for possibly for a continuation lower into the 50% long. So I'm gonna use here 71.23. There are also, you know, there are different levels here, also daily levels that could come into play. If we get a very deep retrace in this market, is going to be into 71.20. And we already reviewed the US dollar, Singapore dollar, so let me review some other markets that could be of interest here. Canadian dollar, Japanese yen, you know, this market is close to that 50%, and you know, we should not forget that this market has traded 50% shorts monthly, weekly 50% shorts here, and you know, the second test was strong enough and pushed price again into this 50% long, which held so far, but there's a 50% short looming. The larger time frame is has pushed this market lower. Okay, so if we get into 86.04, that could be an opportunity for a shorts. Now this market has put a double top here, so it might never get to that level, but that's the safest entry. Euro, Australian dollar, we are seeing weakness in this market, and this market has traded a 50% short and then broke the opposing measure move long here, as we can see on the 4-hour time frame. Highs to lows has traded to 160.54, the 159.30 actually the 159.30 here went into the first target, and so we can see whether this market is going to get into that second target, or highs to lows. The next measure move it's going to be 159.72. Okay, 159.72. Pound versus Australian dollar. This market also has moved lower here, and there was an extension short that we gave last week that has brought price into that second target. Okay, so when we look at the next measure move here, that is going to be from lows to lows, and this is a technical market, lows to lows, behaving like a very technical market, and that's where the next measure move is going to be. Okay, and pound versus Swiss franc here, we also are seeing we've seen a move lower here, and the remember, this market is in a sequence of 50% long, has hit the first target and is now correcting. The correction not as strong, so if the next measure move came into play, that would be the 133.62, but this correction has been very weak and this market has been very extended, so that's why I also have the extension long yet, which has not been tested yet. Okay, and that extension long would be 134.97. Okay, and lastly, the euro Canadian dollar here. This market has moved technically here, testing and basically getting into that first target of this extension. So we saw anchor to lows trading into the first target, anchor to new lows trading into the first target, and now the next measure move is going to be the 156.32 for a continuation low. You remember that this market had failed the sequence of measure moves, started a move lower, could not make it into the 50% short, 158.07, other markets did, and continued lower. That's what we saw here on the weekly. Now, if this market continues lower here, that is the 50% of the wall measure move. Okay, this is it for today. Happy trading, and I'll see you in the room. If you have any questions, just let me know. Okay, bye bye now.